If there's one thing that I've been a broken record about, it's that there is nothing more powerful when it comes to editing photos using Lightroom than the masking tools. So, pound for pound, the ability to apply edits to targeted areas in your photos is what separates this app from so many others. And it's not just the actual masking tools that are amazing, which they are. It's the way you can have masks interact with each other by adding and subtracting multiple ones together. And if even that's not enough, you can also make a selection within a selection for ultra precise editing. That process is called mask intersecting. And that's what this video is about, because one of the most common questions I've gotten over the years is, why can't I use mask intersecting in Lightroom Mobile? But here's the thing, you can and always have been able to. It just takes 2 extra taps, and I'm going to show that to you right now. So let's dive in. All right, so here we are in Lightroom Desktop, and the reason why I want to start here is because Lightroom Desktop and Lightroom Classic actually have a menu item for Intersect, so you'll actually see it there. And that's what confuses a lot of Lightroom Mobile users, whether you are on Lightroom Mobile for your iPad or your iPhone or Android. There is no discrete Intersect option, which throws people off. So I'm going to show you what it looks like here in Lightroom Desktop first. So again, I edited this photo very lightly. This is the unedited version. I applied some denoise and some global edits, and here's what we got. Now what I want to do is make some targeted edits to the bird. And so if I go to masking, which is where I want to go if I want to make targeted edits within a photo, the first thing I need to do is make a selection of the bird. Now, for the purposes here, what I want to do is I want to edit just this part of the bird's plumage, this kind of more reddish area, because this is a reddish egret. I don't really want to make edits to the rest of the bird. So the first thing that I can do is make a selection either using subject. So I'll click here, and you can see if I hover over the subject, the adaptive subject mask did a really good job, except it also selected this area here. Let me turn on the overlay. It selected this area here, which is not especially good. There are things we can do. I can subtract using a brush. So if I went here and selected brush, and then, paint it out, I can do that. But this is why it's so important to understand how all of the masking tools works, because there are multiple ways to get to the same destination. Sometimes that route is a lot easier than others. So in this case here, you can see again, I used select subject, and I'm using a brush to remove the areas here. But if I go ahead and delete this, and in this case here, use objects, and then I'll use this marquee selection tool. Watch what happens if I just make a selection around the bird. You can see it's a much cleaner selection. I don't have to deal with the brush. Now, I know, trust me, I know, the object selection mask is not in Lightroom Mobile. And this is something that I've asked for many years. It's something I've asked for since I've joined Adobe. It's the product managers know. And so hopefully one day we'll get it. Maybe even if some people within Adobe see this video and they see just the pain that I have by not having objects in mobile, maybe we'll prioritize it. But with that said, in desktop at least, you can see here, we have a really nice mask. So what I said earlier was, remember, I don't want to make an edit to the entire egret. I just want to make an edit right here. And so currently the entire egret is selected. Again, you can see everywhere where the color overlay is. That's where the edits will be applied. So if I went ahead, for example, and I increased exposure, for example, you could see that here. Also, if I add texture, it's being applied everywhere, which I don't want. I just want it to apply to this area. So this is where intersect masking comes in. Intersecting is where, like I said many times, you make a selection within a selection. So practically in this photo, what that means is I have a selection. I made a selection using the object mask, and it is of this reddish egret. But now I want to make a selection within the selection. So as far as Lightroom is concerned right now, the entire universe is just this egret, basically whatever has the color overlay. It does not care or see anything outside of this area. So now what I can do is use Intersect to make a sub-selection. So what I'll do here is I'll go to the tri-dot of the mask. You'll see there is this option, and this is what's missing. That intersect with mask using, that is not in Lightroom Mobile. So in desktop and in classic, what I can do is I can hover over this, and now you can see I have all of my other masking tools. So I can use any other masking tool to refine my selection. And again, this is where understanding how each of the masking tools, how they work, is really important, because now it's on you to determine, well, which of these tools will best get my sub selection or my selection within a selection in this scenario. So when I'm looking at this photo, I'm like, you know what? It's a specific color that I want to go for. So let's go with color range. So I'm going to select color range. And so now all I need to do is select a color with this crosshair. So I'm going to select that right there. Let's turn the overlay on. And now you can see, you remember before the overlay covered the whole bird, but now it's only making a sub selection within that color range. And what's even cooler is I have this refine slider. And so if I bring this to the right, it will add more color into the selection, but I actually don't want that. I want to bring it to the left until really only kind of the head and the neck are in the selection. So something like that. I'm not too worried if a little bit spills over here. Really, the selection is excellent over here. And that's basically what intersect masking is. I had the object mask, and then I intersected it with a color range mask to get this refined selection. So now what I can do, if I want, I can say, increase the temperature or warm it up. I can increase saturation. Let's go ahead and move the blacks down here. Let's drop the shadows a bit, really kind of make that area very contrasty. And then I can also go ahead and add some texture just to that area, right around there, a little bit of clarity, and that's looking good. And I can also open up the exposure just of that area there. And so you can see here, just that area, it's really, really impressive how refined you can get with intersecting. And so again, I wanted to start in desktop because it's much more straightforward. You have an actual menu item in the contextual menu for masking to intersect one mask with another. But what if I told you that you can actually do this exact thing, same principles in Lightroom Mobile, even though we don't have a button or a menu item for intersect? So I'm going to show that to you right now. I'm going to use Lightroom Mobile on my iPad Pro. But again, you can follow along on an iPhone or an Android device using Lightroom Mobile. It works exactly the same. All right, so here is a photo of a hot air balloon that I took in Oregon many years ago. You can see if I tap and hold, this is the unedited photo. And again, just like before, I actually got rid of, you can see there's kind of like a passenger van in the foreground to the right of the hot air balloon. I used Gen Remove to get rid of that. And I think I applied auto, and that's it. I didn't do anything else to the photo. Now, let me walk you through a process of using Intersect in Lightroom Mobile, but in this case here, we're going to work with this photo. So let's say I want to bring out the yellows of the hot air balloon. Well, you can say like, okay, let's just go to masking here. Let's open up a mask panel over here, and let's select color range. And so I'm going to use color range, and I'm going to select this yellow here. You can see everywhere that has that kind of blue shaded overlay, that is where the edits will be applied. And you can see I can refine this just like on desktop. Then I'll tap on apply. Now here's the problem. Let's say I go ahead and I increase exposure. Do you see what's happening? It is increasing the yellow in the balloon, but it's also increasing the yellow in the foreground of the tulips. Same thing here. If I wanted to go ahead and increase saturation or maybe even change the color, it's changing the entire image, anywhere that has yellow in the entire image. And that's a problem because I don't want to do that. It's kind of making somewhat of a global edit using mask. It's editing yellow throughout the entire photo. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to delete that mask. And then let's tap on create new mask again. And then this time I'm going to select subject just like before. Now this time Lightroom does an excellent, excellent job of selecting the hot air balloon. But we're in the same pickle here, right? Like now I have select subject. And so if I go ahead, for example, and I want to increase exposure, it's making the whole hot air balloon brighter, which I don't want. Remember, I said I just want to edit the yellows. So how would I go about intersecting if, for example, on desktop, I tapped on the try dot and there was an intersect menu item in the contextual menu here? As you can see in the Lightroom Mobile, we don't have that. So what helps is if you understand what intersect is, because it's a very simple formula. Intersect equals subtract plus invert. So intersect is subtracting a mask and then inverting that mask. So subtract and then invert. And let me show you that in practical terms right here. So if we said that intersect is subtract plus invert, well, we have our select subject mask. That is our core selection. Remember, right now, the only thing Lightroom sees is the blue shaded area. It doesn't see anything else. And we already know now that intersect equals subtract plus invert. So I'm going to go right there to subtract from mask. And just like in the previous image on Lightroom Desktop, I'm going to select color range and I'm going to select the yellow. So something right there. Now I'm not going to touch refine right now. I'm just going to tap on apply. And then remember, I said that it is subtract plus invert. You can see if I slide out here, there is the invert button right over delete. I'm going to tap on that. And voila, we now have our selection. We intersected color range with the select subject mask. So what this means is now I can use the refine slider here to really refine that yellow. So you see if I bring it to the right, it's including a lot more color. But if I bring it to the left, it's really restricting that color. So something right around here is good. And now watch, if I increase exposure, only the yellow within the balloon. Notice how the tulips are not being affected? It's just the yellow in the hot air balloon. I can go to color over here, increase saturation. I can use the hue tool over here to change the color altogether. So if I want it to be like super, super vibrant yellow, I can do that. And I can repeat this process for any other color. So if I wanted to adjust the blues, I could. All I'd need to do is create a new mask using select subject, and then I would subtract with a color range. I would select the blue, and then I would invert that. And then you would have effectively intersected the two masks together. But now let me show you another practical example in this photo here. So let's say I go ahead and I create a new mask, and I'm going to select sky. So you can see we now have the sky selected from top to bottom. And so if I go to effects over here and I increase dehaze, you can see how it's applying dehaze to the entire sky from top to bottom. But really, I just want that dehaze effect on the top corners, like the top half of the photo. I don't really want it to affect the bottom half of the photo. This is where, again, using intersect comes in very handy because you're making a selection within a selection. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to start over. I'm going to create a new mask. I'm going to select sky. And again, I said that I want to apply dehaze to just the top portion of the sky. I don't want it to apply to the bottom half of the sky. I don't want it to apply to the hot air balloon or anywhere else. So we know that we need to intersect, but we don't have intersect available. So let's start by tapping on subtract, because again, intersect is subtract plus invert. And now we need to figure out which tool here would work best for my needs. And I know that a linear gradient would be perfect. And so all I need to do now is drop down and make my selection here. And now, basically, if we're looking at this, what we're currently seeing is that any edits we make to the sky will only be applied to the bottom half, which we don't want. I want to apply to the top half, which is why, again, we need to invert. So we can slide out here, tap on invert, and now we have the correct selection. We intersected the linear gradient with the sky mask. And so if I go ahead and increase dehaze here, now you can see it's only applying to the top portion of the image. And because this is a non-destructive mask, I can drag it down or bring it further up. I can increase the feather of that or make it more restrictive, but I have full control over this. And because we're intersecting the linear gradient with the sky, you can see here, the balloon, the trees, the foreground will never get affected. It's only applying to the sky, which is what makes intersecting so powerful. So when you're done, don't forget you have to tap on apply to commit the masks. And so if I go ahead and tap and hold here, you can see this is our original unedited photo, but the effects of the mask are really powerful. And because, remember, all I did here with intersecting was I edited just the yellow panels of the hot air balloon and the top portion of the sky. All right, so I hope you can see why in the beginning of this video I said that I'm a broken record when it comes to masking. It's because it really is, I think, the most powerful component of Lightroom. Like, for sure, the global edits are very powerful, and even the masks are powerful. But those are kind of like global localized edits, like select subject or select sky. You're editing the whole selection. Where the real power comes in is when you modify masks together, when you add and subtract and intersect masks together. That's where you get truly refined results. Now, I understand there's a lot to do with masking. Fortunately, I've got a course called Lightroom Masking Essentials. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. It'll teach you everything you need to know about masking in Lightroom. I also have this playlist here with a bunch of other Lightroom tutorials, so please do check it out. Or you can see what YouTube thinks you might like over here. And as always, a thumbs up is greatly appreciated, as is clicking on the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified of all future videos. Thanks a lot, everyone.